What's going on, everyone? Welcome to what is a couple things merged into one video. So I guess to start off, what is this? What does this mean for people who don't understand what this video is uploaded for? So this is going to be a reflection and commentary and sort of raw, unfiltered thoughts on this league called OWL, OWL, that I've been a part of now for 3 seasons. That is the league that means the most to me, just in general. And the reason I'm doing this is because this season just closed the book on the league as a whole. Eric and Isaac, the admin, decided that they were, ending it for various reasons. But in general, I wanted to use this to sort of reflect, give appreciation where appreciation is due, and sort of offer my own thoughts about how OWL has existed, and then the second part of it, which if you don't want to hear my sort of random thoughts and things like that, is a analysis of the finals replay in which I took part in the finals of OWL, which was not only just a final of one person versus one person, but it was a best out of 3, and this finals was when the series was 1-1 between my team and Team Jack, coached by Rocky Rolo. So that makes that game even more important. Just it's a phenomenal replay. So I if you're just here for the sort of learning content and academia stuff and how to play draft league stuff, definitely stick around and watch that replay as well, because I will be going and trying to go as far as in depth as possible as I can in terms of why I made certain plays, certain mistakes I made, etc. So, let's get into OWL. So, like I said, as sort of clarification, OWL exists as teams of 3. There's a captain. They pick 2 coaches. It's the league of 24 people, 8 teams. They go head to head. It's best out of 3 every week. You sort of get the point. So I guess backstory on how I got involved in OWL. In the summer of 2018, I was invited into this community in general by Dr. Slacking, who is someone who's a little bit more prominent on YouTube than I am, and someone who's a great close friend of mine, to the extent that I actually went out not last summer but the summer before to see him for 2.5 weeks in England, where he lives. So as you could just tell by that, he's someone who means a lot to me. And even when we didn't know each other as early as this, I really valued his guidance and his friendship with me at the time. And he came to me and said, there's this league called OWL. It's phenomenal. It's run by amazing people, Stronfel and Isaac. You should join. And I did, and I had a great time. For the most part, I enjoyed it a lot. And what really mattered the most to me coming out of that was the community, the people who I got to meet as a result of OWL. For the most part, I mean, if I don't say your name, that doesn't mean like I don't value anything, but just like in regards to the 3rd season, people like Tangela Boots, Sebasaur, Sean, aka Blind Messiah, who I also got to see in England, Stephen Thurston, who I'm very close with, and just Cav, a ton of people who I really, really, really enjoyed getting to know in that 3rd season. And it progressed into other leagues, and those friendships, those bonds were phenomenal. And I was on a team with Dr. Slacking too, so that's how we also got relatively close in terms of friendship level of things. Eventually, those friendships carries over into other leagues. The next summer, in summer of 2019, OWL Season 4 is about to start. And I go on a team with Cav, who is our captain, and RattataMeN, who is someone who is a bit of a character, but a very lovely person who I respect greatly, and I hope he respects me greatly. We've had somewhat of a friendly rivalry throughout both of our draft league careers, so it was great to be on a team together, and that was additionally a phenomenal experience, being on a team with people who were new, not new to the game, but new people to team up with instead of the same team as before. Those were highly competitive games. I greatly loved those. And in addition, just phenomenal experience in terms of the way that the league was managed and the way that the league existed. I have great appreciation for season 4 as well. The great thing that defined season 4 was, for me, was playing Draft League in the presence of other people. That was when I was going to England. So playing Draft League, playing against Dr. Slacking when I was in England was a great experience, because we would josh each other around and be like, oh, I'm bringing this before the game, and all this stuff. So that was really, really fun, and getting to sort of prep together in person, even though we weren't on the same team, but getting to still, have a dialogue with people about Pokemon Draft League in person, face-to-face contact really changed a lot of things for me in terms of my enjoyment that summer for Pokemon Draft League. So I'm forever appreciative, obviously, for being there, not just in the context of Draft League, but in the context in general, getting to see them as friends and just sort of the amazing trips we went on and stuff like that. But in regards to Owl, that was what I was especially appreciative of in season 4 and sort of resonated in my mind a little bit. And once again, the new friendships from season 4 still carry over in the following leagues I take part in. People like Shay Quaza, who was in season 4, who I got to fight in a Wi-Fi league. Other people like Rat, for example, it was his first season in Owl season 4, who is someone who I've had a great bond with from now on. And a ton of other people like Rocky Rolo, Toasty Rex. I hope I'm not missing anyone random that, deserves to be remembered, but literally like Nico and literally everyone. I'm just blanking so much on like every single name of every single person. But in general, I had a phenomenal time with everyone in season 4, and I was so appreciative for that experience as well. And that carries over in other leagues and things like that. So season 5 rolls around. I end up drafting. I actually, for the first time, end up becoming a captain, which means I'm the leader of a team of 3 and can pick 2 other people. And I decide, okay, Matt took a chance on me in season 3. He had only known me for quite literally less than a month, and maybe a little bit longer than that, and had said, you know what, this person seems really great, and I want them to be involved in this new community. And I sort of wanted to emulate that mentality when I was picking when I was picking a team. I didn't want to just pick the people who I was closest with or knew the best. I wanted to pick the people who I thought were had great applications, had great presence, people who I knew were dedicated and friendly and just great people all around, / people I wanted to get to know better. So the 2 people I picked up were Vepsis, who is known in the Draft League community for doing Wi-Fi for the most part, but is actually a very, very, very great person, and hilarious too, by the way. But I was so grateful that he accepted the invitation to join, relative to things like UBL and GDL is a much smaller league in terms of notability and credibility, but I was so grateful that he was, enthusiastic and excited to take part in my team and take part in this league, and get to be involved in this new community. The second person who I got to pick up was Simon, and Simon is genuinely, I love Simon to death. He is a phenomenal person who actually had very little experience with Draft League in the first place, but was a phenomenal battler and a great person to talk to in general. I'm actually learning German right now at university, and he is from Austria, so he's helping me a little bit with German on the side. So as you could see, those connections and bonds really existed between all of us, and we hit it off amazingly. I didn't expect us as a team of 3 to hit it off as amazingly as we did. We ended up going 7-3 in the regular season. We ended up having 21 wins and 9 losses combined between the 3 of us, which is amazing, over a 2/3 win rate. And we actually ended up clinching the first seed in our division at the very, very last week of the regular season, which was another really hype moment for us. So really had a phenomenal time with these guys, and I think our season progressively got better and better and better, and I think that's a sign of a really strong team, a team that does not let the early losses get to them, and they pull through to the end, and they carry it through. Because we were 3-3 at one point, but then we climbed to 7-3, pulled it to the end, worked together. It was phenomenal. So we all worked together as a team. We all worked together as a unit, and we didn't give up on each other. No one strayed away. It was a phenomenal, dynamic, and I'm really, really grateful to get to have known them as people, to have been able to learn from them too. They're both phenomenal battlers that I've been able to learn a lot from in terms of building and ways to think about a matchup. But in particular, I just have a lot of thankfulness for just the laughs that we shared and a lot of the moments that we had as a team, as it's as a group, as friends, and I'm really, really grateful to have had to get to know them. So I'm just going to give a couple of thank yous. So the first thank you is Eric and Isaac, who have run this Owl League for about 5 seasons now. I've only taken part in season 3 through 5. Granted, those were the sort of the biggest seasons, but they are phenomenal admins. I don't want to I don't think anything else other than they are phenomenal admins. They I haven't been the easiest to deal with, as with I'm sure other people in the league, and I know being an admin carries a huge responsibility, but I have the utmost respect and the utmost compassion for their presence and care that they've put into the Owl League, that has made it what it was, that has generated the hype that surrounds it every single summer. Everyone looks forward to it in such an amazing way, and they love bringing in new people between Owl isn't one of those leagues where, yes, you have those same staple people who come every season, but Owl is another one of those leagues where people filter in and out. Different captains mean different things, and different people become invited, and in general, the league shifts in terms of who's within it every single season, and they've made amazing choices. I actually thought, for example, the budget system this season was phenomenal. I think it was the best executed budget system, and sort of I think in general this is the best execution of the Owl rule set that there's ever been this entire season. So I just think there's a lot of amazing things they've done. In addition, their personality and combined commitment to Owl makes it what it is. We know them for being hilarious trolls, but we also know them for being phenomenal battlers, and for being great leaders in general, that they deserve the utmost appreciation for. Being on a team league is really phenomenal. It brings you closer to people, and it gets you to really know who some of these people are in the community, sort of beyond let's bring Chansey this week sort of thing. There's a real commitment and connection created between being on a team, that, especially an intricate team of 3, where there's really there's leagues that have teams of 9 or 7. You can't really get that connection and bond with people with such large teams. More of a close-knit circle really lets you get to know some people. And there's a lot of things I appreciate about Simon and Vepsis being on the team. Like I said, the skills I learned from all these things. You also appreciate sort of the culture, and I this isn't really talked about a lot, but arguably, geographically, my team was the most diverse in terms of where everyone came from and things like that. So I don't know. I step back and I think it's amazing that I get to have such personal and great bonds with people from Finland and Austria. That's absolutely amazing to me. And I don't think there's any other platform where you can easily do that. So, I hope that, I just think that's really neat. I think that's really cool. And I think it's something that's overlooked a lot in the Draft League community, where it's oh, okay, what's your time zone, whatever. But it is really cool that there's really no other time or no other place that I can think of in which, being able to meet people on such an in-depth level globally has been so accessible. So I think that's something additionally to be appreciative of, that Owl makes even better by the nature of it being a team-based league. Final shout-outs I want to give are to the Powder Monkeys, which basically just means the people on my team who were mockers. I'm not going to explain what Powder Monkeys means, but particularly that would be Vinny, Dean, aka Arctic Foss, Razor Claw, and Hunby. Special shout out to Arctic Foss, who had the best in-season record as well. Phenomenal player who definitely took the league by storm and by surprise and has a lot to be proud of. But Vinny, Dean, Razor Claw, and Hunby, great people to mock with, and I don't think we would have won semifinals without them. And I don't think I really don't think that I would have enjoyed this league or has been successful without obviously Simon and Vepsis and then the Powder Monkeys as well. So that's sort of my backstory for Owl. I have very little complaints about this season. I think it went phenomenally. This season was a little bit hectic, I know, for the Swedes because they're busy with school and have a lot of other things going on. But I also thought it was really great that you had people like Vinny and others sort of step up and do things like update the doc and maybe push scheduling a little bit more. And just like the league really runs itself is something that I've sort of realized this season, is that the league has been solidified as such a powerful presence that no one wants to drop out of it, even if they're 1-9, right? Like, it's an amazing league that I've never seen anyone really. It's very rare to find people lose interest in Owl. You get it, and we had it a little bit this season, but with one or two people, but it's very rare that happens. And I think that says a lot for the kinship that the league has created. So that being that, I'm going to get into the replay. A little bit of backstory is that we are playing RattataMeN in this. So like I said, he was my teammate from last season. And I couldn't have asked for any other possible finals matchup. I think it's the most fitting in terms of for either of our victories as a team to go head to head against each other. And additionally, I think that, it was also against Rocky Rollo, who is my teammate in it was Rocky Rollo's team. It was my team against Rocky Rollo's team. Rocky Rollo is my teammate in the sort of off-season tournament, which was also kind of nice. So a lot of things really came together for this matchup. And the thing that made this matchup even more hype is that there was one win on my side, one win on their side, and this was the tiebreaker game. So more pressure, more fear, and but more excitement as well, which was a great thing. So and the final thing to note is that this is the final game in Owl history. They're ending the Owl season, Owl League post this season now, and that makes this battle that I partook in against RattataMeN, which I think is a very fitting matchup again, a very forgive me if I say poetic matchup, that was really great to happen, and a nightmare to prep for, but I haven't prepped harder for a game in a very, very, very long time. So let's get into it. Let's show the replay. Let me change the... there we go. So we are here in this replay, in this matchup. No music. I'm not going to do anything like that. I will show what the team is, or I guess I can say what the team is, rather, because I don't actually think I have the paste up with me, which is probably a little bit dumb of me. But essentially, the team is centered around breaking with Necrozma and winning with Charizard X. And that is sort of the idea that the team took, particularly because he doesn't have the greatest answers to Zardax. In general, his Dragon Resist, which is Clefable, and Scissor and Doublade, I believe, is the one Dragon Resist he can bring, all get destroyed by a Flare Blitz. And then, in general, he doesn't have that great Fire Resist either. I mean, I guess he has Moltres and things like that. But in general, Charizard X had a great matchup this game, just Dragon Dance set, 2 attacks and Roost. Necrozma was there to break. The idea was you get Calm Mind, and then I had 3 attacks with the Citrus Fairy to get a little bit of health. And honestly, just in general, perfect coverage for his team. I think it was Photon Geyser, Heat Wave, and Dragon Pulse to hit the Hydreigon. Skarmory was a just Defog, Taunt, Roost, Brave Bird set. It actually had a bit of attack investment to achieve certain 2-hit KOs, for example, a 2-hit KO on a no-bulk Scissor or a Azelf. In particular, I just wanted Skarmory there to defog, and additionally, I wanted it there to be able to stop random things from happening. So, for example, Cosmic Power Clefable, I wanted to be able to taunt that before it became a thing. Swords Dance Bulky Scissor or Curse Scissor, I wanted to be able to taunt that. Additionally, Rain, which is a very possible thing he could have brought, and was something that I noticed in prep could be a possible option against me. I could stop random things from going for miscellaneous Rain Dances. So I really like Taunt this game, and Taunt is sort of the move that I would say if there's any move I'm known for running, it's probably Taunt. So I guess it's a little bit predictable, but I thought it had phenomenal mass type this game. Gastrodon is my Hydreigon answer. It is max speed def and is basically my switch-in general. That's about it. I guess it also answers Azelf if it doesn't have grass coverage and Moltres. What it was mainly there for, though, is the Mega Manectric, which he had in the back but didn't end up bringing to this game. But Gastrodon still has an amazing time because it can go for yawns, prevent certain things from setting up, in particular Nasty Plot Azelf, Cosmic Power, or Calm Mind Clefable, Dragonance Hydreigon, Nasty Plot Hydreigon, Swords Dance Scissor, Yawn, and just in general had great matchup in terms of preventing things from doing what they want to do when it usually requires 2 turns to do it. So Yawn is amazing. This Rotom set I thought had a really good matchup outside of the Mega Manectric. So I sort of said to myself, okay, if Mega Manectric comes, it's going to mean I'm a little bit more reliant on Gastrodon, and it means sort of Rotom's going to be a little bit less useless, but it can sort of also be chipped down, and I have good answers to it and kind of can pressure it. So it's sort of it has good elements and bad elements if it comes. So I'm able to handle it, but, you know, I was also sort of going off the assumption, like, okay, I have a Zardex and a Gastrodon, so there's probably a good chance that the Mega Manectric doesn't come. I say this all because Rotom Fan just had Dual Stab, Nasty Plot, and Pain Split. Pain Split's amazing because his only electric immunity in the outside of, I guess, pre-Mega'd Lightning Rod Electric is Seismitoad, and Seismitoad has ridiculously high HP. So I found myself in certain mocks being at like 22%, going from Pain Split on the Seismitoad switch, and I was back up at like 80%, which is amazing. Nasty Plot just in general has amazing breaking power. If he ends up bringing Magic Guard Clefable, it sort of busts through that, and just sort of Nasty Plot just makes the damage output massive, especially if he's like a Fizz Def Seismitoad, which I need to break in order for Zardex to clean in the end. +2 Air Slash to it KOs. So that was a great set in general. Now the sixth slot rather was changed literally just the day before I was supposed to play this game. So I'd had this team built, and I had made multiple versions and made constant edits to it. Starting the Monday of the start of the week. And we played on the Sunday, which is coincidentally the day I'm recording this. I'm doing this a couple hours after the game is actually played. And it was Golisopod originally, because I was afraid of Hydreigon and being able to revenge it. And so I wanted First Impression. I was a little afraid of Azelf. I was a little afraid of revenging Mega Manectric, which I didn't have the ability to. I just in general thought priority was good because nothing on my team had priority. However, Vepsis pointed out to me, and I give him entire credit for why this set was brought, pointed out to me that Hydreigon was a huge threat on my team. Therefore, I needed Light Screen in order to minimize the damage output from Hydreigon, and things like Encore Momentum with U-Turn was going to be very effective in terms of breaking down some of his more defensive threats and just getting initiative into either my breakers / cleaners, which are in a Necrozma and Zardex, or my defogger insofar if I need to defog being Skarm. So I guess the only other thing to mention is items. So Gastrodon was leftovers, Rotom was heavy duty boots. I think I already said Necrozma was Citrus Berry, because Citrus Berry means even if I'm +1, Specs Dark Pulse isn't a 2-hit KO because it does like 60, then I get the Citrus Berry back, and then it does like 60 again, but I'm not dead because I got the Citrus Berry back. So I like Citrus Berry in this matchup. I'm like a hoe for Citrus Berry. Like I said, leftovers Gastrodon. Aka Berry Skarmory was the big one, because I thought that it would allow me to defog on Moltres if I needed to, and I also figured that Azelf and Clefable would be running fire coverage to hit me, since that hits me on the Roost and also hits the Weavile, which I didn't bring. So I think I said Weavile's Light Clay for the light screen. So we are going to get into this game. I'm going to play it on slow, and this is going to be, I'm going to try and be as in-depth as possible for everything that I thought about in this game. Some plays on face might seem kind of weird, but I was sort of meticulously thinking about what he would think about, what I would think about, what certain lead matchups meant, things like that. So the first part of this game is really huge, and that is this Azelf versus Skarmory matchup right here. Now, hypothetically, you can look at this and say, okay, this is probably an offensive Azelf. It can go for Thunderbolt and just nuke you, take you down to Sturdy. I can go for Fire Blast and just destroy you, take it down there. I didn't think that if he was that he would lead it. My perception was that if he was a hyper offensive team, which this didn't necessarily look like a hyper offensive team yet, but if he was a hyper offensive team, he would probably lead like a suicide Azelf with Rocks and Explosion. If he was more, things are support for Azelf, Azelf's not going to come in first. So I figured the only scenario in which Azelf leads this game is if it is some sort of suicide rock set. And I sort of figured that by mix of both just sort of logic and playing out what certain matchups would look like in my head, trying to think from his perspective. But I additionally thought about that just from knowing how he builds a little bit. I've seen him run Azelfs like this, and I knew that if it led, it would most likely be something like this. And I'm not afraid of something like Fire Blast because I have the Akaberry anyway. So the play here, knowing that Taunt is possible, and really I don't have any other play because Taunt wouldn't make sense, Defog wouldn't make sense because maybe he taunts instead of going for Stealth Rocks. It's just a Brave Bird and break this thing's sash, slash incentivize it to Defog. So I do that, which is amazing, and catch him on this turn 1. And that really just comes from pre-game prep. So, I sort of said to myself, look, he's probably going to lead his rocker in this matchup because it's so important against my team. As you can see, my team is relatively weak to rocks because I have a Zard X. So I, want to get them off as soon as possible, hence why I led Scarm so I could defog. And this works out really well for me because even though he gets his rocks up, I've killed his one rocker. And that is really huge because I have defog on this and I can defog on essentially 3 of the 5 things on his team. I can defog on Scissor, I can defog on Moltres since I have the Akaberry, and I can defog on Clefable since I outspeed it and also have the Akaberry. Additional thing is that, Azelf being the rocker actually gave me some intel this game. It told me that this Clefable was likely going to be the Zardex answer, which made me think it was a little bit more unaware because I thought that Clefable probably wasn't going to run Rocks this matchup. But if I definitively saw Rocks on something else, I was pretty sure that Clefable was going to be in the back for something else and not meant to be defensive. Well, meant to be defensive, but meant to be sort of like a defensive check to Zardex. I thought I was unaware for Zardex, and seeing it not have Stealth Rocks, because I think Stealth Rocks would be more common on a Magic Guard set, seeing Stealth Rock on Azelf made me think, okay, maybe this Clefable is a little bit unaware. Additionally, it made me think this Seismitoad was offensive, which shout out to both Vinny and I think literally all of the mock people saw that Rain Dance Seismitoad was a very possible bring against me. So seeing Rocks on Azelf made me think, all right, maybe this actually is a hyper offensive team with Rain Dance Seismitoad, particularly because otherwise, if it was a defensive Seismitoad to take on Zardex, then it would probably have Stealth Rocks on the Force Switch. And thinking that Seismitoad is offensive definitely made me think Clefable was defensive, because if Seismitoad's offensive, then Clefable has to be the answer to Zardex. So you see me play around with that knowledge in mind a little bit in the end game, but I had to I took a lot of time after this turn 2 to just sort of like affirm that in my mind, sort of not necessarily play knowing those things, but keep it in the back of my mind that that's what I sort of imagine his team to look like just by nature of Azelf being the rocker. So sometimes one set can inform you of others is what I'm trying to say. So Seismitoad comes in and immediately I think, okay, this has to be offensive. There's no other reason if you're defensive why to bring this in. I could literally just like constantly wall you or whatever. So I sort of think to myself, okay, this is probably offensive. It's probably going to go for either a water move or it's just going to go for Rain Dance here. Either way, I think Whimsicott is safe. I don't think Rat at this stage of the game would ever risk going for Sludge Wave here if he has it, knowing that Gastrodon is also kind of a equally possible switch. Granted, I guess in hindsight he could have made the read, but I didn't think he would in this moment, and thankfully he did not. So he actually goes, as you can see, for Rain Dance here. And this is perfect for me because Whimsicott does have the Encore, another sort of typical Whimsicott way to go. And this is phenomenal for me because it is now locked into Rain Dance, which not only means that the rain turns will be stalled out a little bit, and it gives me the knowledge that he is rain, but it also lets me get a little bit of U-turn momentum off here. I did consider a little bit going for Light Screen here, and I guess in hindsight I probably should have, but I actually just ended up going for U-turn to get momentum. I thought a little bit about this play. I thought about whether I wanted to go into Rotom and Defog, because not only am I in the rain and would take a Flamethrower, but I also have the Akaberry, so it would do functionally nothing. but I actually calced Hurricane, and Hurricane was a 2-hit KO. So if he ended up getting a confusion or something like that, that could have been really disastrous for me, and it wasn't going to miss because it was in rain. So I didn't really want to risk it. Maybe I should have, but I ultimately felt like Rotom Fan was a much safer play, particularly because it allows me to just put on some pressure here. He goes into Hydreigon, and I go for a Nasty Plot. Probably a misplay in all truthfulness, but as you can see, I just go into Whimsicott here. So I was afraid of Season Toad coming back in. I guess in hindsight, he was never going to risk it. But I actually thought the play was to Nasty Plot there, mostly just because I thought Clefable could come in and it would give me sort of intel on whether it's unaware or not. Clefable's still not coming in, makes me think it's there just for Zardex. And I keep this Rain in mind as well in terms of what is Rain Dance and how many Rain turns there are, because as long as Rain Dance is up, Charizard can't do jack shit. So, because Flare Blitz is halved. So that's another important thing to consider. But I ended up just going to Whimsicott here. I had assumed this thing was either Specs or something along those lines. If it was DD, then, Skarm would have been able to come in afterwards. But I really thought that it was going to be special, and I figured it was either going to be Nasty Plot, or it was going to be... I thought it was either going to be Nasty Plot or just Specs. This damage tells me instantly that it's Specs damage because I was basically max Spidef Whimsicott. And that's great intel for me because it allows me to go for Light Screen here and just sort of put on more pressure. So shout out to Vepsis for this set. The other reason I felt safe switching into Whimsicott is because there was Rain Up, so Fire Blast wouldn't have done as much. So yeah. He makes a great play here and goes for a U-turn instead of just going for the Flamethrower. And this allows Hydreigon to come in. I am able to take this Dark Pulse hit, but we are playing risky with these flinches here. Like a 20% flinch could be huge for me. So we do get the slow initiative off, which is amazing, but I end up going into Gastrodon here because I really have no other option. I don't want Whimsicott to get chipped more than it already is because it's just going to be sort of a U-turn war where Moltres and Scissor can come in and I just keep U-turning with rocks up. That's not very ideal. I guess in hindsight, I should just clear the rocks with Skarmory, but like I said, I was a little afraid of the flinch, so I wanted to just put a little bit of pressure against Rat here by going for certain moves, by going for Yawn, and then playing around here a little bit. He is able to effectively stall out my Light Screen, which is fine, but a little annoying. I sort of just spam Yawn, hoping that something's going to eventually stay in, but since he's pivoting, it does force me to hit Recover at some point, which I believe I hit here. If not, I hit it next turn. Yeah, I hit it next turn. Or I hit it this turn. So it's sort of, we're just playing back and forth with Scissor here. I guess he could have kept going for U-turns, but he ends up deciding to go for knockoff. I don't get the burn on this Scald, unfortunately, and I sort of decide, okay, like this will allow me to get a little bit of damage off. Like if Hydreigon comes in, I can burn it. If not, whatever. But he's able to effectively stall out my Light Screen turns, which is scary because it means I have to get Whimsicott back in at some point in order to do this. So I do this at this moment, knowing that I can take one Dark Pulse, knowing it's Specs 2. I know he has to be Dark Pulse because if he locks in a Fire Blast, he's putting himself in a relatively risky position where other things can come in, like Necrozma could set up on him if he locks himself in a Fire Blast. So he does go for Dark Pulse, and here I decide, okay, now that I'm behind a Light Screen, I can safely go for Defog and sort of make room for Zardex to be effective. So even if it means losing Skarmory, this is still really great for me in terms of this is still really great for me just in general. There's like a weird series of doubles here, right, where I just thought he was going to kill me and I was going to like probably just go into Zard or Necrozma and set up. I think he knew that and didn't want to give me free setup fodder, so actually went into Seismitoad. And I ended up going to Gastrodon, so that's a great play by him, and I was a little afraid of the Power Whip. I didn't have the Rindo Berry. I did have it a little bit in prep, but I ended up just going for a Yawn again. I sort of decided, okay, either I drop to a Power Whip / well, I wouldn't drop to a Grass Knot, but either I die to a Power Whip, or he goes for Rain Dance, I Yawn, and I just keep forcing him out. So we sort of get back into this how to stall Light Screen turn situation again. I am able, thankfully, to catch this Hydreigon with the Ice Beam on a prediction. Granted, it doesn't do too much, and I know that nothing will do much damage to me, so I'm able to recover spam on this turn. This little bit of damage on Hydreigon is great because it puts it in Dragon Pulse range from Necrozma, which is actually pretty great. I end up deciding this game is pretty bad for me, even if it might mean he gets momentum in the short term. Putting Gastrodon in a situation where it's starting to run out of covers and things like that is not very ideal for me. So Thankfully, because I'm speedy Rotom fan, I outspeed this Seismitoad, and like I said, get a ton of HP back with Pain Split as he goes for the Rain Dance. Now, unfortunately, my Light Screen wears off one turn too early, sadly, and puts me in a situation where I'm forced to sack Skarmory to the Hydro Pump, which is not great. But Necrozma does live one. That's a plus. So it lives a max modest Hydro Pump for sure, and kills back with a Photon Geyser, which is great. So I'm able to do that. The downside to this is that Necrozma is going to have a hard time setting up on anything else at all. And the other hard thing about this is that it sort of invites Hydreigon in for free, which is what I thought, but he actually ends up going into Moltres, and I'm like, oh shit, he went into Moltres instead of Hydreigon. Let's go. So I'm able to get a clean switch in Rotom Fan here because he went into Moltres instead of Hydreigon. And since Seismitoad's gone now, that's a free Volt Switch on something. He can't stay in here, and he's going to have to bring something else out. And he ends up bringing in the Scissor, and that's amazing for me. I don't hit myself in Confusion. I'm able to go for Volt Switch, and this allows me to get a free Flare Blitz off. I should essentially take anything here, barring a Moltres. I guess Moltres could hypothetically switch in, but there's not much Moltres can do to me outside of Toxic. That would allow me to not set up Dragon Dances, so I feel like it's a little bit risky of him. Granted, if he's unaware, whatever. I think his best play is just to sack this, mostly because he doesn't know I could be Rock Slide, and it would just be a little bit risky. So he sort of sacks this Scissor, which is phenomenal, and now he has to go into Clefable. And here's where that sort of turn one read comes into play. I sort of say to myself, all right, if he's unaware, he can possibly take some of these hits, and that would be bad. So I want to put myself in a situation where I'm winning 100% of the time. I don't want this to happen. What I don't want to happen is I don't want to get myself in a situation where he goes for Thunder Wave, which he might have and he might not. But I was thinking, okay, how do I lose this? And I was thinking the way I lose it is if he goes for Thunder Wave here, and if he goes for Thunder Wave, even if I start setting up Dragon Dances, he can get Hydreigon up at some point and start flinching my entire team down. Dark Pulse, if he Dark Pulse my Gastrodon, or even an Ice Beam wouldn't kill, so hypothetically it would be too hard for him to get at least one flinch as I try and go for two Dark Pulses. So him T-Waving me could lose me the game, is what I'm trying to say, because it would allow my one thing that outspeeds Hydreigon to, well, not outspeed Hydreigon. So I decide here, I'm just going to switch out. And that was sort of why I didn't Dragon Dance on the Scissor as well. So I'm just going to go into Rotom, and thankfully my prediction was correct. He had the Thunder Wave, which allows me to get in Rotom Fan and go for a Air Slash here. Now, the reason I went for Air Slash was sort of a middle ground, right? I wanted to scout and see what this Clefable was. If it was soft-boiled, then whatever. I'll just start nasty plotting and doing a bunch of damage. If he's Wish Protect, I don't want him wishing back up Hydreigon, and I also didn't want to go for Volt Switch there, right? I didn't want to go for Volt Switch on the Clefable only to switch, I guess Gastrodon in is the only thing that can take a Moonblast. I don't want Zard or Necrozma to switch in and take something. I don't want to go for Nasty Plot because Hydreigon could come in and just kill me, and that's a wasted turn. And I don't want to go for Pain Split because, once again, Hydreigon can come in and just that's a wasted turn. So I wanted to go for Air Slash to guaranteed get some damage on something to ensure that Zardax always kills Clefable with that little bit of chip, or to get Hydreigon in range of something like an Ice Beam or, another Air Slash. So, unfortunately, it just misses out on the range where Volt Switch kills. Otherwise, I probably might have stayed in, but I just go for a Dark Pulse here. The reason I go into Gastrodon is because I actually find Gastrodon kind of useless. Gastrodon being in this game means that if Clefable has Wish and tries to Wish back up this Hydreigon, which would not be very good, it means that I'm playing prediction games trying to Ice Beam on the right turn where Hydreigon comes in. I don't want Gastrodon around to open up that win condition for Rat. So I actually just want to sack it here. And thankfully, I'm not flinched, and I actually go for Recover. This was a misplay on my part. I should have just gone for Yawn, which I end up doing the next turn. Because ideally, I can go for Yawn here. And it either forces him to switch into Clefable, which means I can just Soft Boil, which means I could just Recover and start firing off damage and prevent him from Wish Passing. And if he starts going for, Calm Minds, I could just Yawn that Clefable, so something is inevitably going to sleep. Or he chooses to kill me, which is what he does here, and his Hydreigon falls asleep, which is massive, right? So now I have a choice. How do I want to, win this game here? I end up deciding I want to do it with Charizard X because I want to be able to go for Flare Blitz, which nothing will take outside of a Moltres, but he doesn't know I don't have Rock Slide, plus I could just Dragon Dance on the Moltres. So it comes down to this matchup against Clefable, right? So I can Flare Blitz here, even if he Thunder Waves. Now, since I wrote him in the back, since I preserved it and sacked Gastrodon instead, I can beat the Moltres 1v1. So all this Charizard needs to do is beat this Clefable 1v1. Thankfully, I got a really good roll on Flare Blitz and did a ton of damage. So him wishing Protecting wouldn't help too much, and he actually makes a play in a Moltres, which is a really good play on his part because it means that it becomes reliant on Necrozma to beat this Clefable, which is a much lesser odds than Charizard beating this Clefable. So the reason it's a lesser odds is because Photon Geyser has a chance not to kill after he protects here. However, I still think I could have won this endgame because Photon Geyser does break through unaware. So I could have Calm Minded at any point, but it would have been iffy. Like, I didn't have recovery. He could have spammed Moonblast. You never know. So that's the game against Jack. Rat. His real name is Rat. His team name was Jack, so that's why the Jack is in front of his name. The reason I wanted to show this primarily is because it's the last game of Owl. It's important. And I just wanted to showcase it. And that's about it. So it's the end of an era. That's my sort of thought process and how I was thinking about this game. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you got something out of the game. Hopefully you got something out of the recap. Hopefully this wasn't too long, but that is the game. I appreciate everyone who is part of the Owl. I appreciate everyone for watching. And final season of Owl, my team is the Owl Champions, which is surreal, amazing, and makes me so, so, so happy. So I'm going to celebrate and see you all in the next video.